has two guests. So shall we say we'll start the meeting right now?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to start the meeting.
Welcome to National Star Wars Day. This is the May 4th edition of the Yarmouth Energy Committee. We're here and we're meeting by remote. And can I have a motion to approve the remote meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the remote meeting.
Okay,
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. We have two guests today. We have Anne-Marie Gavin with us, and we have Ed Centio with us. So I'm going to skip right to Anne-Marie Gavin, since Marilyn has to be absent today, so we're not going to be approving last month's minutes in her absence. Welcome, Anne-Marie.
Thank you, Joyce, and thank you everybody for giving me a minute. I just want to tell you how much Steve and all of the family appreciated the Zoom whatever meeting, that special meeting that you held. And it was my fault that he wasn't in on it at the time. I missed the email. I don't know what was going on that day, but he did see it. And the best thing was that each one of our children could see it too. And I have it as a memory. And he very much enjoyed all his years on the Energy Committee. I've forgotten how long it was. And thank you for doing that from me and from all the kids. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Today.
This is Bob Palmieri. Steve was our dean, our eminence grise, if you will, and he was a very important person to us on the committee, and so he warranted everything that we said about him.
And he certainly took it seriously.
Yes.
I can tell you that. And Joyce, if I find it, I don't know, I thought I found a CVEC folder. I have no idea what's important or not, but if I find anything, I'll let you know and bring it to you.
Okay, great. And I'll give it to the person at town hall who's going to handle it. They haven't done a replacement yet. I know Steve indicated to Bob Lawton that he felt strongly it should be a town staff member because the work had become so complex.
Yeah.
Steve himself was so modest that I had no idea until the obituary that he had an MBA degree, so that he was like 1 foot in business and 1 foot in mechanical energy. So they're never going to find that again.
Yeah, he did. Okay. Well, thank you very much for letting me be a part, and thank you for having that meeting.
You'll always
Thank
be
you,
a part of
Anne-Marie.
us too.
Okay. Now, if Joyce or somebody, here, I will see how to leave. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we move on to the Cape Light Compact update. There's quite a lot to report on that. Our next board meeting is April 12th from 2 to 4:30. It's a Zoom. You can go to the site to be connected if you want. And we've just filed the first draft of the 3-year energy efficiency plan. If you want to see that, that's on the Cape Light Compact website. And there are going to be a series of hearings during the summer at which the public's opinion on this will be sought. And so those dates are listed, but I'll be reminding you of those next month so that we can all write in about what we like, what we don't like about the 3-year energy efficiency plan. Apparently this stuff is taken quite seriously by the Department of Public Utilities, where we have to make a bit of a showing because it's run by someone who used to work for Eversource. So there you are. That's the Cape Light Compact report. Alas, Yarmouth does not yet have anybody appointed to CVAC, so no CVAC report for this time around. I will just ask very briefly, I don't see her, but if Amanda Lima is here, I would ask if she had anything that she wanted to add on that.
I don't have any update on that particular matter.
Okay, well, thank you
Joyce.
then, Amanda. We always appreciate your updates when there are things to be updated, and then we realize that there are quiet periods.
Yeah, the only thing that was minor this month is like I had mentioned last month about the Wi-Fi versus the cell modems for the charging units and being strategic when we place them outside, is that as of right now, the locations that have been chosen aren't Wi-Fi compatible. So now I'm exploring getting cell phone modems and having a reoccurring cost for that charge. So
Oh, okay. Well, that will make the chargers smarter, and people can greet them, and eventually people can greet them with MasterCards, I suppose. MasterCards saved on phones. Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Joyce.
Yep.
CVAC, I have an update on the solar battery at DY.
Excellent.
That project is still going through. The project as it was originally designed is being changed because of needed upgrades on the solar panels, inverters. CVAC is working with the owners of the solar panels at this time to see if they want to do the upgrades or if we have to do the connection a different way. So it is still going forward. We did get the extension for the grant, and hopefully it will come to fruition within the next couple of months.
Oh, great. I'm really glad to hear that, Sandy. You've been very patient. I know we've been through many nor'easters since that since that battery was promised with the grant you wrote for the DY shelter.
Sandra,
Okay.
Sandra,
I-
how old are those solar panels and inverters?
They've been up since 2012, 13, somewhere around in there.
So 10, maybe 9 years, maybe.
Right.
And they're having problems with them, or
They're not having problems with them. Just the technology for the batteries has changed, and they need to do some kind of connection.
Oh.
And the solar panels that we were going to use are in front of the meter, which is not usually what happens with a battery. They're usually behind the meter. But because we chose to do in front of the meter because of our demand charges at the school, we wanted the credits, so we put it before. So, and that is a problem with the battery, because that means when we need to use it, we need somebody to actually transfer it.
Okay. Any other questions for Sandy? Okay, well, let's move on to our distinguished guest this month. Ed, we're delighted to have you here. Ed's going to tell us about Energy Park Part 2 and what's going on with that, and maybe some information that we will need to have heading into town meeting. Ed, it's all yours.
Hi, Joyce. Thank you. And thank you all for having me today to just give you an update on where we are with the Cape Cod Energy Park. That's a combination, or that's a project that's a combination of solar, battery, and hopefully an anaerobic digester. And those would all be located at the facility on 50 Buck Island Road, adjacent to the regional solid waste transfer facility and the regional septage facility. If you don't mind, I'm going to share a document, hopefully. One of the things that, so we went through an RFP. This has been, several years in the making, and the town of Yarmouth, this is part of the creative ideas that many people have come up with to try to fund wastewater largely without increasing the residential real estate tax rate. And this project was born out of some work that we had to do in the septic facility because that facility, which is an enterprise fund, it's supposed to be a standalone fund, all of its own expenses, was projected to lose money. So we went through a re-engineering effort. Did you all get a copy of this? Joyce, did you send this out, or is this the first time they're seeing it?
Nope, I knew you were giving a PowerPoint, so I figured you could, just address it.
Yeah, I was just going to go through the memo and then kind of look at the chart and, kind of identify, why are we doing this? It was to ensure that we
Ed,
weren't.
excuse me, this is Joyce. Can you expand your screen? I don't know
Sure.
if I'm the only one, but I'm only seeing the bottom half of page 1.
Yeah, and that's what I was showing you. So the first part was just a memo to Bob Lawton.
Oh, okay.
Giving some history, indicating that we were set to lose about $364,000 a year at the septic facility if we continue to operate it as it was because of some debt that we're taking on. Phase 1 of the project was a small amount of solar that will be installed at that site behind the meter for the septic facility. And then phase 2 goes well beyond that with a larger solar array. And then phase 3, we hope will include an anaerobic digester. And for those of you that might not know what an anaerobic digester is, it would take biosolids and potentially food waste, put it into an airless environment. It would produce methane. That methane could then be used to generate electricity. It could be injected into the national grid pipeline, or it could be used to convert to jet fuel or whatever the highest value case might be at the time. I think we're projected to do electricity and to inject into the pipeline for national grid as the first options, but there are many more options. And again, this was, just an outgrowth of trying to deal with the septic facility. We much more than handled that facility and its financials, and it's doing much better than it was before, and will actually help to fund the wastewater project in and of itself. This particular phase of the project, again, is earmarked to help with the wastewater funding. We're looking at $3.6 million over 20 years to contribute to that. And then, as you all know better than anybody else that we might speak to, you would still get life out of those solar panels well into the future as well. As you've all seen with some of the solar projects that you put in place, and again, I want to thank you all for the solar array that you arranged for to go on the top of my on my roof in Yarmouth for. Very thankful of what you were able to negotiate for that project, and that project will also include my putting in, or your team, Solar Wolf, putting in a battery. So likewise, this project will have some of the same types of environmental benefits, not only allowing us to help tackle our biggest environmental concern, which is the nitrogen that's going into our waterways, but it will also reduce carbon emissions by 5,084 metric tons approximately, which is the equivalent of 6,639 acres of forest. And then one of the nice parts about this, and you spoke about Cape Light Compact earlier, the person who presented the RFP to us, they did their homework. They actually reached out to the Cape Light Compact and put together a community solar plan, which means that they will be able to give discounted electric rates to low-income families or low-income households in Yarmouth so that they can actually reduce their electrical cost as a part of this project. In addition, this project is going to fund $10,000 a year over 5 years for tree planting for any trees or for the trees that we'll be removing in that location. Downside, of course, and some of the folks that believe in additional open space in Yarmouth, either the town The federal or the state government owns about 34% of the town, either as open space or as buildings for those facilities. But we will be cutting down trees to make room for the solar, and that might be a bone of contention. So we just want to make sure that you all are aware of that. And this is the footprint of the solar array that would be off of Station Ave where the dealership is and across from White's Path. And it is circling the 10 million gallon water tank that is on this property. And yes, on the top of that water tank is a solar array that we've had for a number of decades that our DPW director helped facilitate. And then there's another piece that would have a solar array as well. The first piece would be this section over here, the first project. That was the most difficult and section that wasn't as ideal as this section. And we opened up the RFP to somebody that wanted to put in a retail operation with solar roof mounts and maybe solar canopies. But this is what this particular solution would look like. And just wondering if you have any questions about this or would like more detail.
Ed, it's Mike Duffy.
Hi, Mike.
Congratulations on being one of our first purchases on the Solarize program.
I think I signed the first contract.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So you're going to be the solar array 2 for the town with all the stuff that you're purchasing, I think. But I'm curious, with regard to your knowledge with the solar panels that are being installed here, compared to what you are getting for your own home, do you think you got a good deal on your home?
Oh, I got a great deal on my home. You guys did a fantastic job. $2.43. You kidding me? That was great.
Yeah. So even compared to what the town is paying for this potential.
I'm sorry. I neglected to say that we're actually leasing this property.
Oh, he's leasing it.
Yeah, so we're not paying anything for the solar arrays.
Okay.
We're not maintaining the solar arrays or doing the interconnection charges. So we're taking on, which is maybe normal for a municipality, trying to take on less risk than we would if we were to actually try to borrow the funds and try to put together an array of this size on our property. And again, one of the things we look at is our bond rating. And we're looking at, potentially $500 million of borrowing for a wastewater project. And, we're trying not to fund these things on our own, if we can.
Okay. What's the total kilowatts of this system? 1, 2, and 3?
Hold on, please. I should have had my proposal.
Well, Ed, you can send
4,404 kilowatts. Or 5,709.6 kilowatts.
Well, 4.4 megawatts then, huh?
I am looking at this photo, Ed, and I am seeing right in the middle of the blue a solar array that was at one time the largest solar array on Cape Cod.
Exactly.
And comparing that with what you're proposing to put in is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
I just wish we could have a couple of wind turbines stuck in the middle of it.
yeah. Fortunately, this is on the flight path because that was looked at for this facility. We could put wind turbines, small wind turbines on our Buck Island property if we were to go it alone and put a septic treatment plant there. I mean, a sewer treatment plant there. That was part of the original design for that facility.
Oh, yeah, the Energy Committee had a hand in that, making sure that the study of that was done back in the early days. Joyce and I and
Steve
and Steve
and
were,
George.
yeah, and George Allaire were
Yep.
part of that, and then the study was reconverted by the engineering company that the feasibility study into the wastewater project.
That's correct. Well, thank you all for proposing that. So in this particular installation, we're also going to get 50% of the revenue from the battery storage component, and that would be something that would be sold to ISO New England, or it would be sold to Eversource, that power.
Oh, good. So a version of the smart arrangement then?
Yes,
Okay.
but it's utilizing the community solar aspect in conjunction with Cape Light Compact, who is going to be using some of the revenue to actually reduce energy costs for our residents.
Excellent.
So you're going rogue and not using CVEC.
We did an RFP. CVEC did the first phase. We did an RFP that was open to any person who wanted to do something on this property, including retail, but we ideally wanted a solar component to it. But yeah, yes, we did, I guess, but same result.
Yes. No, I'm just teasing.
No, they're good to work with. Actually, CVEC was part of the team that I tried to assemble as it related to the Cape Cod Energy Park. We had regional stakeholders as well as local stakeholders in this particular project, and we've discussed this with the Energy Committee in the past.
Yes.
So this is just, we're getting ready to sign the lease so that they can start construction of this if it's acceptable to our Board of Selectmen. And I think the pushback will be the clearing of the property and the clearing of the trees. But I think we're trying to mitigate that issue with, the tree planting program, as well as the fact that this is something that's helping out with the environment in one or two ways, the reduction in carbon, as well as the funding of our wastewater treatment facility.
Okay, Ed, this is Joyce. I have a couple questions. Is the total over 20 years 3.6 or 13.6 million?
13.6 million.
13.6. Okay. And then just one other editorial thing at the bottom where you're talking under the tree planting. I think that you now mean exit 75 off
Yes,
exit rip 75. You could see it.
that's how old this letter was. It's yellowing now.
Well, it sounds like a great project. Now, obviously, it needs to be approved by Board of Selectmen, but will this come up at town meeting because it's a contract or not?
We already took this to town meeting 3 years ago to get the ability to lease this property for 30 years, and that was approved.
Oh,
So
okay.
this just requires the Board of Selectmen indicating that our town administrator can sign the lease to move forward with the project.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's a sure thing then.
Yeah, it's just, again, some people will push back, and I think there's already been some pushback that, we're removing some trees to make this happen. But I think the overall good of the project, when you talk about funding wastewater and you look at the environmental benefits of solar versus fossil fuels, I think that helps aid in helping us go forward with this.
I joined the app next door for the Solarize campaign, and I can tell you there were some major squawks about what happened to the trees by the school on Station Ave. Some people living in a coma-like state perhaps didn't realize the new school was going there, but they were really upset about the trees.
Yes, yep, that's, we do, the trees do help with the carbon as well, but not
Sure.
as efficiently as solar panels do, as you all know better than anybody. And then in this particular location, this is where the anaerobic digester components are that we hope to put in place. And that might lead to more solar, I'm sorry, more battery power, because there'll be magnitudes more electricity produced from a plant such as an anaerobic digester.
Now, with the anaerobic digester, will that charge businesses like restaurants directly?
No, normally that waste would go to the septic facility, which
Uh-huh.
would, based on septic haulers pumping out Title V septic systems, which would be put into one of the wastewater treatment facilities. Then what is produced is the sludge or the solids from that activity, and that is what would go into the anaerobic digester.
Ah, okay.
So it wouldn't be the businesses directly, it would be the folks that either haul away from the businesses, or if they're on sewer, that are treated by the sewer facility.
Oh, okay.
Ed,
Anybody have any other questions for Ed about this project?
Ed, how much methane you're going to be producing?
I'm not sure the quantity of methane, but I can get you the power numbers, and that's methane that's captured as opposed to when you put the bio, many of the biosolids are actually applied to or land applied, so that methane is not captured at all, and or it's put into landfills, and that methane is not captured, or is captured just a little of this. This would allow us to capture near 100% of the methane based on how these plants now work.
And you said one of the options would be to feed it into methane pipeline. Is there a methane pipeline
It
running
would,
through Yarmouth?
you would treat the methane. So in order to actually run it through generators, in order to inject it into the pipeline, that would be treated, and then it would be put right into the national grid pipeline as it is in other areas of the country.
Does that pipeline run through Yarmouth?
Yeah, it's so on White's Path, they have a 12-inch national grid pipeline that's going right through here. And then if you go farther down White's Path on the right-hand side, you'll see the national grid station there, or national grid building there.
Somebody do a risk analysis of the potential hazards associated with the methane there on site?
Yes, and that's part of our fire department surveys, as part of the permitting process. So we've studied this, based on this. I mean, Europe has a significant number of anaerobic digesters. We just have just a few in the U.S., but they have multitude of plants all throughout Europe, because they just don't have the landfill space to throw away the food waste or throw away the biosolids. And obviously they're environmentally conscious, knowing that the methane can cause greenhouse gas effects or magnify the greenhouse gas effects. So, the capture of that is incredibly important.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good questions, all of you.
Those generators, anaerobic generators, produce a gas which is very, very corrosive, and although methane is the major product, that methane has to be scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed until you get it so it can be, as pure as LNG, which is the normal thing in the pipeline.
That is correct. But in that project, that's one we're not, most of the Cape Cod Energy Park, or all the Cape Cod Energy Park, we haven't written a check to do any of them. The anaerobic digester is still speculative at this point in time. We put out an RFP, we have a vendor, and we're working through the details. And if it's not safe and effective for us, then we don't move forward. But we're not putting town money into it. This is a nights and weekends type project to try to come up with non-tax revenue sources to fund our government operations, our government needs.
Yeah, it's a very low tech technology. I mean, there are anaerobic digesters in third world countries all around the world, that small, local ones where people wind up getting cooking gas out of them.
And they've been around for a millennium because some of the bathing pools were actually fueled utilizing methane, or warmed utilizing methane. You can read about that in the history of anaerobic digesters. So it's not something that's new. Now the capture of the methane is an important point, as Mike brought up. And we'll capture more of the methane than the way this waste has been treated currently. If there are any questions?
I have two questions that I would love to run by you, but they're not about this. Does anyone else have any questions about the next phase of the energy park?
And before I'm shut off, I want to rave about Margaret's song at the Cape Light Compact.
Oh, she's wonderful.
And the rest of that crew. I know you guys are sitting on the board. She's tremendous. She's been our quasi green communities coordinator. Just wrapped up our final green communities report so that we can be in line for our next set of $200,000 grants to try to continue to improve our efficiency in the use of energy and do other projects. But I know you guys are associated with her, and she's, I'm not saying anything you don't already know, but I just want to add
But
to
it's
her
nice
praise.
to say good things when you see
Yes.
good performance.
Yes.
And I have a question about a future that I've been pondering. You know that different members of the Energy Committee have been looking into facilities for EVs and charging stations and how much they cost and so forth. And I was wondering, and you would have a sense of this as the finance director, since presumably all the memorial contributions go through you. But does this seem like an area where perhaps there could be more long-lasting memorial contributions than boards in the boardwalk, which keeps getting, damaged by weather, or little names engraved in stone here or there around the town? I mean, I would love to see, many chargers that were paid for not by the town, but were on public land with little memorial nameplates from people who were interested in energy and have passed. It seems to me that would be a really wonderful contribution, and one that lasts longer than names on wooden benches and wooden piers that rot away in this climate.
That's an absolutely fantastic suggestion, Joyce.
Yep. Good,
But
I'm writing that down.
do you see any practical problems with that aren't immediately visible?
No, it's so the way donations work in the town is if someone wants to donate something, it has to go before the Board of Selectmen. This is not controversial. I can't believe they would ever deny something like this. And once that's happened, if there's a fund that it's earmarked to, it would go into that fund. And then because it's designated for a particular purpose, then those funds would need to be used for that purpose. So yeah, that's definitely something that can be done. Now, I brought up Margaret's song because we have been putting in charging stations at no cost to the town based on the Eversource money and the Green Communities money. So effectively, until we could build up a fund with enough dollars, the Green Communities money is one of the best ways we could get funds and large amounts of funds to fund more charging stations. And the fact that Eversource will pay for the installation is another way to really leverage the full build out. But, on top of that, adding those nameplates could be, an additional way to fund it. And if Green Communities goes away, or if, the Eversource money dries up, then, that might be a way to do that, well into the future. And, potentially get some, folks that are passionate about this cause, have some deep pockets to, really contribute significant money, maybe to, make this a model area with, for, charging stations. So I think that's a tremendous idea.
Okay, and if I understand what you said, Ed, the logistical way to set this up would be to have a dedicated fund to which individual contributions could be made with some specifics with the contribution?
Yeah, somebody would say that this contribution is for, one of the town's charging stations, or to buy charging stations for the town and install them, even potentially, depending on the donor. Get some of those folks on Great Island to do that. And that would be then brought before the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen would approve it. So, one example, I don't know if there's ever been an example where the Board of Selectmen has denied something, but if there was some shady character that wanted to give us money that, maybe they're a terrorist of some sort, they might deny it, but, it's almost 100% guaranteed that it'll be approved for that purpose. Then it would go into a donation fund, and the purpose of that donation fund would be for, I don't know if you want to just say charging stations, or do you want to be more broad concerning energy related items? Because if that fund got big enough and we built out sufficient charging stations, would you want to move on to something else?
Good point. I mean, it would be lovely to think that we would create a fund big enough to just take care of the 50 charging stations and then be looking for bigger fish. I guess I'm wondering if it was a question of a full charging station that would have a nameplate saying "in memory of." How much would be, just a guesstimate, how much approximately would a donation be that would cover that? I mean, Eversource will do the installation and the connection, but you've got, the whole smart aspect of it. You've got the stand, you've got, the part that goes on top of the pedestal. I mean, I just wonder about how much we're thinking, because that might help if Energy Committee started to think about this and think about it as a future campaign.
I don't know how much, I think, you don't necessarily want to make it $10,000. It could be a low amount because somebody with a low income might be interested, but don't have a ceiling on what they could contribute, I think would be perhaps a key. So if somebody wanted to contribute $100 and do it, wouldn't you let them? Because that would just contribute to your future ability to maintain those charging stations. The town is paying for the electricity. Can you get some solar canopies for those charging stations to help with the energy cost, and some battery technology? So, I think at a minimum, it has to be enough to pay for the nameplate. But I would think, some amount more than that.
Okay. I was just trying to think for people who wanted nameplate stuff. I've worked for universities and my spouse has worked for universities, and unofficially, donors get word if they want their name on something this big, it will cost them X much. If they want their name on a whole building, it will be this. If they want their name, and so forth. And I was just, I mean, I like the idea of a fund where people could just make donations. But if we had, as you said, somebody who wanted to do a donation and had deep pockets, but but was also maybe a little obsessed with the little bronze plate. It would help just in the future, doesn't have to be now, to get a sense of what kind of package we should be thinking of.
Well, that's why I brought up, these charging stations are pretty small. It's kind of hard to put, something that's very visible on the
Yeah.
charging station. That's why I brought up, perhaps, an installation of solar to go with the charging stations would give you a little bit more space to put a nameplate. Maybe the installation of a battery to go along with the solar that relates to the charging station. And that would help reduce town energy costs. And that would give you a little bit more surface area to actually put in something that was substantial in size that somebody could actually read. But if you go up to the charging stations at Town Hall, you'll see that there's not much surface area. So if we can build up the surface area with some compatible features on those charging stations, then you might have a little bit more surface area to put in something, more substantial in terms of the space.
I agree there isn't much space on them. I mean, we could have a little cord with a magnifying glass dangling from each one so that donors could come and make sure their name was on it,
Or you could put, a freestanding sign, like, we have the signs for the charging station, maybe not that tall, but in between you could have something that was larger, and that would be put into the ground so that somebody could see that it's, somebody's memorial charging station, or however they might want to phrase it. So
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. I have one more question, again, toward a future idea. I remember when Cape Light Compact was housed at the county, and I used to, just know much more stuff about the county in those days, that towns can purchase shrubs, trees, green stuff through, I believe it was the county extension, but essentially from that county farm. Is that still the case?
I don't know, but if you're looking for a situation where we can reduce the cost of our expenditures, the county does joint procurements for, Barnstable County towns. So if you're looking to reduce the cost of purchasing something, then a joint procurement avenue through the county might be helpful. But I'm not so sure. The farm is now, I believe, privately operated, and they just sell their goods to whomever wants to purchase their goods. But there is a joint procurement process that we go through with the county to reduce municipal expenses, if that's what you were thinking about.
Oh, I was thinking specifically, trees grown in Barnstable, bought at cost by the town of Yarmouth, tugged across the border and planted. So I had a kind of literal sense of what the county used to offer. And what reminded me of it this year was the big master gardener's sale, of plants and shrubs and, flowers and all that. I also wondered, with the whole question of the trees, whether you think that there would be any large practical difficulties in the way of, say, a couple town committees. Oh, I don't know, energy committee and community preservation and wildlife. Just as examples. If those committees wanted to get together on a tree drive to supplement purchasing more trees. I think the 10,000 budget in the energy park plan is excellent, but I was just thinking, are there places where, now that the town has a certain amount of town land functioning as it expects to have it for the next few decades, where the town might want some more trees? And that might help with the anti-takedown tree sentiment, which is quite understandable.
Yeah. So what I did was, I had two options for the tree program. Some people preferred the option that was presented in the memo, but I also contacted or reached out to some nonprofits that specialize in planting trees
Mhm.
And their cost was $1 per tree, where the cost for if we did it and we kind of had our DPW do it or contract with it, it would be much higher. So that's an avenue for actually vastly increasing the number of trees that would be planted, either here and or the fact that we're planting trees somewhere in the Northeast helps out with the carbon footprint. So it would be, the option would be, you could also plant it in other areas of New England, and we're essentially all, receiving the benefit from that approach by having more trees that are able to absorb the carbon.
Mhm.
So yeah, there are many options, and if it comes back and there's some pushback with this, then we can say, well, we can really ramp it up by going through one of these nonprofit organizations who specialize in planting large numbers of trees at a low cost.
Oh, that $1 a tree is amazing.
Yes.
It's
And
like the Arborize plus.
Yeah. So I think in our case, we'd probably plant more mature trees in more visible areas as opposed to, planting volumes of trees in remote areas. So that was, I think, what people were looking at when I made the two proposals of how we might utilize tree money to mitigate.
How about the east end of Townhouse Road? I was driving down there with all the cherry trees on the west end. The cherry trees on the east end are mostly dead.
Yeah, and we can do more replacement work with a fund like that. So a lot of people were more like, okay, let's do it to beautify the town, and we have a fund
Yes.
to do that too. It's
Yeah.
just we can all hopefully get back closer to near full staffing so that we can do those types of things. We've been
Mhm.
fairly low in our staffing because of first the Great Recession, and then the effects of COVID. Finance, for example, is down 21% from where it was in 2010. And then we had hiring freezes, so we were down, additional staff to get down to about 65% of our 2010 staffing. So, we're struggling with finding time to do a lot of these things too.
Oh, of course. Yeah. And Energy Committee members, I can tell you from getting emails from Ed setting up this meeting, some of them come in at 1:07 in the morning. I mean, he works long hours. Just one other thing about the idea with the tree planting. Would that be something you think that could also work as a destination for memorial contributions?
Absolutely. Yes. Did you work in the development area within the colleges? Or were you a teacher?
Only one time when we needed to get some funds for the Department of Celtic Languages and Literatures, and somebody had to convince John Cullinane to give $1 million, and we did it.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with this concept, is say, okay, we're not going to put the whole burden on the taxpayer, raise your tax rates. Let's try to come up with creative solutions like what you're coming up with to actually meet some of the challenges of the town without burdening, in many cases, and in the town of Yarmouth's case specifically, the lowest average income population on Cape Cod in the town of
Wow,
Yarmouth. So,
the lowest.
yes, so it's not always easy to increase the taxes, and if we can be creative and still accomplish the same goals, then let's go ahead and do that. And your ideas are right along those lines.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. We will get ourselves through the beginning months of Solarize and through town meeting and the election, and then we might start thinking about some of these things.
And I told the Solarize folks they can put a sign in my yard
Yay!
to advertise the program once the process is going, so other people will actually see it if and when they drive by the house. So I'm all in.
Excellent. Well, and we really appreciate your being willing to do that YouTube interview for our
Sure.
site further along. Much
I've also-
appreciated.
I've also sent them the permitting information for the electric permits, the historic district permitting information, and just to try to, help them along. Both the HVAC person, the person with the mini splits, as well as the solar guys, just to ease their way through the town of Yarmouth maze.
Well, that was very welcoming. Thank you very much for doing that.
Sure.
And
So-
thank for the segue to Solarize. I did have a question for you, Ed, on that. Because I'm glad to hear that you're going to put a yard sign in your yard, and we're probably going to be ordering those within the next couple of days. And I know that you have communicated with Lisa Dobbs up at Clean Energy Center. So are you all squared that anything that we would purchase in the, with regard to flyers, banners, yard signs, has been approved by Clean Energy Center?
It seems to be, otherwise we'll have to hit that donation fund if it's not approved.
So that's,
And for a large purchase, let us use our town purchase card. So there's no reimbursement necessary.
Excellent.
use your, okay, would you run that by me again, Ed?
If you have a vendor and you're going to buy something from that vendor, allow us to call that vendor and give them our town P card. It's a credit card where they can actually bill the town directly, essentially. We'll pay for it directly. And then we don't have to, give people reimbursements. That means you guys don't have to, wait for your money to get into your account. We'll just pay for it directly. That would be the easiest thing.
Okay, yeah, because I was going to ask you about reimbursement of possible sales tax, but if you pay it directly, there shouldn't be any sales tax question.
There
right?
is, yeah, we did work with you on that. There is no reimbursement for sales tax.
Right, okay, so thank you. We'll let you charge it. So,
Yeah, I think that's the easiest, cleanest way to do it, and that doesn't put a hole in your pocket until we can get you, an EFT or a paper check, whatever's appropriate.
and if we order these online from somebody out of the state, that's not a problem?
Why don't you tell me where to order them, and I'll order them online with my P card. And it's not a problem doing it out of state.
Thank you.
It's just part of the issue is, and I can give them our tax-free or our tax exempt information as part of doing that process.
Good, thank you. I'll be in
Ed,
touch.
that's wonderful. I have no idea, how you can be doing that on top of everything else you're doing, but thank you. That's great.
1 a.m.
But this might push it to 2.
Hey, that's all right. As long as it's not 3.
Getting to-
Okay,
But-
we'll
but
try to
Mike,
be
does-
reasonable.
Mike, doesn't Ed already have the money in effect?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. I think you got, what do you got, 5,000 over there, Ed, so far?
All I can see is 2,500.
2,500.
I don't know if you have to do something to get the additional funds that I saw in the write-up.
We're meeting with Clean Energy Center people tomorrow, so we'll see. Maybe it's time to have some more money released.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
But and we do have the funds. It's just again, I came for the private sector, so Sandy knows this stuff as well. It's you got to spend money in a certain way in government because somebody stretched the rules somewhere and they wrote 50 pages of ways that you're supposed to do this stuff. So I try to take the easiest way. If I can just pay for it directly with the P card, don't have sales tax on the document, then that just makes our life so much easier here.
Well, that's great. I mean, I think that works all around. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, well, we've taken a lot of your time and we don't want to push you to 1:30 this coming morning. If there aren't any more questions, let's give Ed a round of applause and
Oh,
thank him
please.
for devoting time to Energy Committee today.
Well,
Thank you,
that's-
Ed.
That's far too generous. I'm going to listen until I got to tune in the selectmen, see what's going on. If you
Ah.
don't mind.
Well, listen, have a good supper break before the select meeting.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks again. Bye now. Okay. Well, moving on today's agenda, Mike, I'm assuming no report on the annual operating plan because we're all out on Solarize, right?
Right. And so
Okay.
Solarize is actually taking care of most of what needed to be done on the operating plan. Kind of serendipity.
Okay, so why don't we move on to the update on Solarize Plus, which is also you, Mike.
Okay. So since our last Energy Committee meeting, there's been a number of presentations and meetings with regard to Solarize. On April 6th, immediately after our Energy Committee meeting, I gave a status report on Solarize Plus Yarmouth to the Board of Selectmen for maybe the third time. I think they're getting tired of hearing about it, but they're all for it, so that's good. On April 8th, gave a presentation to the Yarmouth Finance Committee on the Energy Sustainability Resolution, which is really Solarize and the rest of what's in the Energy Annual Operating Plan. On April 22nd, we had our Meet the Installers virtual meeting. And on April 23rd, Joyce and I gave presentations to the Rotary Club. Mine was on Solarize Plus Yarmouth. With regard to the Meet the Installers virtual meeting on April 22nd, there were 46 participants who asked a variety of good questions, which Joyce read to them, and they were answered by Solar Wolf or by Wayne Enos from South Shore Coastal Climate. No, Climate Control. I always want to say Coastal Climate Control. And as a result of that virtual meeting, right then and there, we got 3 solar PV leads were generated. The meeting was recorded and it is available. I've got a YouTube URL if people are interested that either missed it or want to see it again. You can actually watch the recording. Now, with regard to the status of where we are, as of May 3rd, yesterday, we had 39 leads. And with regard to the solar system leads, 6 solar systems were accepted. 2 additional proposals have been completed. 5 additional site visits are scheduled. 1 additional site visit has been completed. 10 leads have been emailed from Solar Wolf, but have not heard back from them yet. 2 of the leads have decided that they're not moving forward. And 1 lead turned out to be a bad lead. I don't know how it fell in there, but the person was not interested at all. With regard to the air source heat pumps, 1 proposal has been completed. I don't know if that's you, Ed, or not. It might be. 2 site visits have been completed. That's me and Ed, if his hasn't been yet completed. And 1 additional site visit is scheduled. So basically 4 leads have been acted upon on the air source heat pumps. And I don't know, what's it, 8, 13, 14, 27 have been acted upon on the solar side. Joyce just mentioned that we're going to have a virtual meeting scheduled tomorrow with our volunteer team, both the installers and the Clean Energy Center folks.
Mike, do we just use our old Microsoft Meetings thing from an earlier message from Jason, or are we going to get another one for tomorrow?
I got one from Jason today with a new agenda and.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There you go. They have their agenda, but I haven't gone through that yet, but I've got my own things that I'm going to make sure that we cover during that meeting. One is to review the leads, the site assessments, and the acceptances. Also, the lessons learned through all of that particular process. I don't know if you are all aware, but on the CEC's Google site, there is Solar Wolf has posted now their very detailed, extensive lead sheet. If you haven't got to look at it, you might want to look at that and see all the information they're collecting there, putting in nice, pretty package. I want us to review and finalize the flyers for printing. As a matter of fact, I coordinated with Barry today on several of those that he had actually come through with us for the original ones that were done, a month to 2 months ago. And there's one for yard signs, one for banners, and one for a potential handout flyer. So we want to, I'm going to send those out to all the volunteers and the rest of the folks that will be attending that meeting. Those will go out tonight, so they'll have a chance hopefully to look at them, and we can discuss them briefly tomorrow. Not going to be looking at a lot of wordsmithing, but some ideas maybe that if some of them are too busy, what we need to cut out of them to cut it down. And I hope to come out of that meeting then tomorrow that all of those things are finished and can contact the online printer to get those printed and sent to us and get that information to Ed now so that he can actually place the order. Hopefully that can be taken care of, if not tomorrow, by Thursday. Another thing I want to go through tomorrow is what the next steps are and what we need to do, especially with regard to preparing for the May 22nd annual town meeting, which I'm surprised is not on our Energy Committee agenda tonight, Joyce.
I'll let Barry speak to that. We do have an update scheduled for 5:45 on that. But you finish the Solarize first.
Yeah, I'm finished, except that, well, the 5:45 is talking about the 3 meeting articles. Haven't we decided that we want to have a table there someplace where we can be handing out the Solarize information, if nothing else?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we had decided that at a past meeting, I think. Yeah.
Well, I thought we should ought to discuss tonight what the logistics of making that happen are going to be.
It's a little unknown because it's outdoors. We are not yet quite able to picture where it will be, but there's a request in.
So will they outdoors? I assume they're going to have big outdoor speakers and a microphone and maybe.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Even a projector and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually can't quite picture the whole town meeting, but yes and yes.
Who do you contact to find out about all that stuff?
The new town moderator, Moody. I'm not sure how to say it.
I think it's Ken Moody.
Ken Moody, yeah. So I sent him an email.
Okay, good. Well, I'm done with Solarize. We can move on now, unless there's any questions.
Okay, just one other thing that since I got in touch with Lisa this morning about the question of how many different solar installation companies received our RFP, or at least it was sent to them even if they never opened it. She also said she'd throw in tomorrow some talking points on the questions that have come up. The first one, how many companies did you look at? I don't believe Solar Wolf is the cheapest. And then number 2 goes back to the Better Business Bureau complaints against Solar Wolf, when they should have been against the solar company for whom Solar Wolf was then working as an installation contractor. but didn't own the solar contracts, really was just an adjunct to the process. I mean, I really want us to have very specific answers to those, and Lisa thought that was worth bringing up.
I saw the email traffic back and forth between you and Lisa.
Yeah.
I kind of find it hard to believe they don't know how many people they sent the RFP out to, but
It seemed to me that they could go to their email and count. I mean,
one would think.
yeah.
But don't these RFPs also get published in Women's Wear Daily and things like that? Sort of a general broadcasting of the RFPs as well.
Yeah, they do have a blast. I don't know if they're publications that they publish in anymore, but there might be. But it would seem to me, Bob, that they could figure, I mean, they wouldn't know about secondary and tertiary passes on of the message, but it
Yeah.
seems to me they could figure out how many primary people receive their blast.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, if we're done with Solarize, if there aren't any questions for Mike, we can move on to Barry and town meeting and what's up with the town meeting articles.
So I think I circulated by email the latest developments, and thanks to Joyce for actually attending the Board of Selectmen meeting where the issues got addressed. So this should be mostly her report. The new town administrator recommended that the two bylaw proposals be postponed so that he and the town staff could weigh in on the, both the merits and the right strategy to address those issues. And the Board of Selectmen unanimously supported that approach. I talked with Joyce some and reached out to all the Yarmouth Climate Action Network folks who'd worked on the petition drive. And I think the sentiment was unanimous that we should assent to the Board of Selectmen's desire to postpone those two issues and ask that the new town administration work with us and the Energy Committee to try to resolve a strategy on those issues by the fall town meeting. So if the Energy Committee concurs with that strategy, this can be a pretty short discussion. The Board of Selectmen did unanimously support the resolution endorsing Solarize and seemed, highly supportive of it, as did the new town administrator. So I assume that will still be presented for a voted town meeting. Joyce's suggestion was that we make a statement on both of the bylaw articles to basically explain what they are, and that we are supporting the administration's desire to postpone the issues and work further on them for the fall town meeting.
Yeah, I mean, this postponement might give us time to get more ducks in a row for the obvious naysayers who will be fighting them.
But it also seems to me, especially for the Energy Committee, it is important that we have a good relationship with the new town administrator.
Yes.
The relationship with Dan was obviously a huge asset to the committee's ability to accomplish stuff. And, to be fair, there was nobody to talk to in town hall about this for a few months. As far as Mr. Rittenau is concerned, this came out of nowhere for him. And as soon as he walked in the door, he was facing it. So I think we should just assume he is acting in good faith to want to put his stamp on new town policy.
And also, Barry, I would think that if people interested in those issues were willing to do research and stuff, we could presumably be of help to town staff in identifying opportunities and prices for the next Green Communities grant, you know, to propose things there that would be convincing energy savings, because this is a competitive grant process the second time around.
Harry, will you be attending the town meeting?
Yes.
Good. You're free.
I would just like to say, you know, really, we're all good citizens and we should all go to town meeting. We've been vaccinated. And really, you know, in the old days, the only excuse to be absent from a New England town meeting was death, your own. Although I guess that's different now that the Puritans are gone.
I mean, we are going to send a message to as many of the 170 folks who signed those petitions last fall that originally put these bylaws in front of town meeting, to let them know that we're going to agree to postpone them, but to encourage them to attend town meeting nonetheless, because it is important for folks who care about these issues to be part of town government.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we can be helpful, I think, in having this presented more fully next year. I was a little aghast watching the FinCom meeting when a member of Yarmouth Climate Action Committee, not a member of this committee, when asked how much an object he had just been pushing for would cost, he said, "Well, I don't know." And I go, it's the FinCom. What are you thinking? So we'll be able to get everybody on board with doing a thorough job on that. And with everybody on board, you know, Climate Action Committee, town staff, Energy Committee, any other town committees that are involved, we should be able to make real progress with those things, which were very good ideas, and ideas that would reduce emissions and in the long term reduce costs. And we do have to just get around a certain elected board's feeling that short-term savings are what you go for.
So I'd make a motion that the Energy Committee support the Board of Selectmen's request that the 2 articles proposing bylaws on energy efficiency be postponed to the fall town meeting, and that we offer to work with the town administration to refine and improve them and prepare them for reconsideration.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying, oh, wait, shoot. I forgot, remote meeting, we have to vote individually. I vote aye.
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 Okay, unanimous. Good, so we'll make sure to include that in the minutes, so everybody will be clear where Energy Committee is on this. Because we're thinking long-term on this. We don't want a difficult victory that makes future progress impossible.
So I figure what Joyce and I should figure out, which of us, or maybe jointly, to reach out to Mark Forrest and Bob Rittenauer to let them know that that's going to be our posture, so that.
Okay. Now, you've been in contact with Bob Rittenauer, right?
No, I've talked to Mark a lot, but not to the new administrator.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you and I can talk offline about strategies for that, sure. Okay, any other questions or any points we need to raise for town meeting? We know it will work well, even though it's outside and scary new stuff, because Sandy's in charge of the facilities on which it's being held. So how could it go bad?
And I think
Okay,
that-
thunder and lightning would be a bummer, but oh, Mike?
And I suggest that we have a virtual meeting amongst ourselves 2 or 3 days before the town meeting to make sure we all know what we're going to be doing. And first of all, is everybody here going to be going? Barry is, Joyce is, Sandy is, I am, Bob, are you?
Yes.
Oh, good.
And I think Marilyn would seem like a good person to work the table.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Because she had actually signed up with Solarize to, back when we were going to have all those wonderful in-person gatherings, she was going to be the sign-in desk,
Right.
get people's emails. Yes.
But does that sound like a reasonable thing for 2 or 3 days ahead of time for us to have a brief?
Okay. Let's just ponder times with that. Sandy, you'll be back by then, right? The week leading into town meeting?
I'll be back on the 17th.
17th. Okay. So it should be after the 17th so that we don't take more vacation time away from Sandy, who's hosting this meeting on her vacation time.
If I'm right, we have a Solarize meeting on that Wednesday morning, the 19th. And
Oh, we do,
it seems
yeah.
to me, partly just in light of, it's awkward for the committee to hold meetings as the Energy Committee outside of, the official context because the open meeting stuff. So the Solarize meeting involves all of us and is outside of those rules. So can we just take it up at that? As an item on the 19th?
We can go to meetings, but we can't deliberate about Yarmouth Energy Committee business at the meetings of another group.
That's Solarize volunteer committee business, not energy committee business.
Yeah, but this attending of having the table at the town meeting is that a Solarize volunteer committee activity, or is it the Yarmouth Energy Committee activity?
Well, Solarize is what we're going to be publicizing, right? That's what.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that feels.
But I send out the email as a member of Energy Committee, kind of emphasizing that we have always done this in the past, for the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 years.
So Barry,
Okay.
spoken like
We'll think about that. We will have to have, if 4 people are going to discuss this, it does have to be, if we're going to discuss things that are the things that would be deliberations by Energy Committee, we'd have to have an official meeting. If it is, though, I mean, with what Bob and Barry were just noting, a Solarize strategy for the content of what's going to be on the table, if that's the main thinking about this, then I guess that could be legitimately covered by Solarize.
Yeah, I thought I recalled learning, God, this goes back almost 2 years, when we first started talking about Solarize, that that because Solarize was a state managed project, that even though Energy Committee members were participating, and even though sometimes it might be a majority of the Energy Committee members were participating, that it was not it was not a meeting of the Energy Committee when we were working with CEC on Solarize.
Yes, working on Solarize wouldn't count as being going rogue as the Energy Committee. We're talking about things that are part of Solarize or are part of the effort to promote Solarize Plus would be the Solarize volunteer group rather than Energy Committee.
Yeah, as the remaining retired lawyer on the committee, I think we'd be okay to talk about it on the 19th.
I second that.
Okay, it sounds as if it's going to be Solarize related, that we'll be able to do that, and that is everybody who's on Yarmouth Solarize. Well, it's everybody who shares Energy Committee membership with Yarmouth Solarize, even though it omits some people who aren't in either category. So that should work.
Well, it's worked for the last year and a half on all these CEC meetings we've had.
But we weren't doing anything about town meeting strategy there. But if it's mainly talking about publicizing Solarize and tables and stuff, then it's fine. So do we have any members' comments, proposed future agenda items? Okay. And then since we don't, do we have any motions anyone would like to make?
To adjourn.
Okay. Now, I think Barry had his hand up first. Who seconded that?
I'll second.
Okay, so Barry, seconded by Bob. Is there any debate on this?
Oh,
Sandy's howling from Florida.
Mickey says no.
Okay, seeing no controversy here, can I just put down every one of you as an individual vote to adjourn?
Yes.
You know, the remote thing where we have to have votes with names and yeah. Okay, so everyone votes to adjourn, in which case, goodbye, everyone. The other 4 Energy Committee members who are on at this point, of course, I'll see you and hear you at the 10 o'clock Clean Energy Center meeting tomorrow, so it's not a long goodbye. Thanks again for coming, Ed. Have a nice 24 hours, Energy Committee people who are also Solarize.
18 hours.
18. Oh, well, okay.
Thanks
So
for allowing
Sandy,
me
you
to
get
attend.
18 hours off of your vacation until your next meeting.
I have to do an OSHA class tomorrow in Disney for 4 hours. I
Sandy,
made it.
when you vacation, you vacation.
Then I'll go to Animal Kingdom. It'll be just like being at work.
Well, thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
All right.
Well, that was pretty good. We almost ended it right to go.